All right. Hello and welcome to Plugin Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugin Along, we finished coding in the difference between a minimum D level and needing to be at server cap for the D tracker plugin. Then we started a large refactoring project to make future maintenance easier. Today we're going to start by reviewing those changes because large refactoring projects like that have a high chance of causing bugs if we're not careful. And once we're happy with that, we'll add a few helpful logic shortcuts to simplify the code that uses it, since we'll have that option available to us. As always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. And actually, I fibbed a little bit because today I kind of want to start by looking at these delving notes that just came out the other day. So I've got those pulled up. These came out yesterday. And all right. So if you haven't seen it, over on lotro.com, and this is currently linked to from the homepage, on the second row here, Developer Diary Delving System Update. I'll toss a link in the chat here. Yeah, we'll just copy that. All right, so that's available in the chat there. And Dame Hypatia says, I'm happy that my best character is level 90. Who knows how many changes have been made when I'm at level cap. Yeah, there's something kind of freeing about having a character over here on Treebeard who is at the server cap of 75, but the things that they do at quote-unquote end game on a standard server is in the distant distance. And if I wanted to, of course, could go over to Crick Hollow or some other server and experience those things. But it means if they come out with something super exciting, but maybe isn't as polished as they want it to, and they have a few extra things that they want to do, I'm never going to have the incomplete version. So there's pluses and minuses, maybe. All right, Developer Diary Delving System Update. Read more about upcoming plans by System Designer Myth. Awesome. So general balance adjustments. The general difficulty in mid to high tiers ended up higher than we would like. And we're decreasing the alert range of enemies at higher tiers. I did notice that when I was doing some of the delvings with Little Redhead, yeah, they could see me from very far away. Malice changings. And I knew, I had heard ahead of time that this was going to have an embedded spreadsheet in it, and any developer diary that has spreadsheets, you know is going to be a good one. And so this is the spreadsheet they were talking about, the spreadsheet of malices. And they're going to be reorganizing malices by type, only putting one of each type into each variant per band. Prevent you from encountering more than one damaging hotspot, for example, regardless of the combination that day. And so we can see we have the tiers: environmental, on death, monster affecting, adaptive and reactive, and then the variants spread across 6 different columns. And I suspect this is the kind of thing where they feel like it's going to be expandable, so they could keep on throwing different variants, or, as we're seeing, 2 new tiers into there, and keep expanding what options are available within the delving system. So, 6 variants was enough? 10 variants! Or increasing the combinations of what you might end up with. Alright. We're adding in new malices that give you the ability to counter their effect, something we call strong counterplay in the game design space. So, we'll be adding epic monster skills, cursed hotspots, and reworking some malices, particularly at low to mid to low tiers that do not have strong counterplay. The delving gem consolidation that was being referenced by Egg Arthur and Little Redhead on the stream. We can see a visual representation of that. You have the cracked and the uncracked versions of 10 different gems, so 20 different possible gems being consolidated down to just 4, and each one of them will have that unique marking on them, so you should not have a gem cascade in your inventory. That is excellent. So it sounds like you'll just be able to sell the unneeded gems for cash after this transition is complete. Neat. That will definitely save some space in my inventory, because I think I have a few of those. Actually, I think I tossed them into shared storage if I was allowed to. Let's see. Now, Del. I put them in my instruments bucket because I ran out of tab names. So yes, I do have 10 gems here. I would like to reclaim that space because I don't have a lot of extras. Ginger says, real basic question, what is the website to find plugins? Little Red Hat has executed the plugins command, and you can find many LOTRO plugins at lotrointerface.com. lotrointerface.com. There's also a section, if you go to the downloads, you'll also see a section for Dungeons & Dragons Online. I don't know what the state of that side of the website is, but the Lord of the Rings Online side is where I spend all my time. And then the LOTRO standalone plugins is where I tend to poke my nose into. And there's all sorts of categorizations, and if it doesn't fit in any of those, there's the other catch-all bucket. So popping into other, you'll see all sorts of things. It's kind of an easy thing to start off. If you're like, there's so many options, what I do is maybe just come in and sort by clicking on the header by number of downloads. Click that little arrow to reverse it, and we can see the thing with the most downloads is combat analysis. Now, I don't feel like analyzing my combat, so that's maybe not for me. We see a PVMP one. Okay, maybe not for me. Next one up is LOTRO Compendium. That one has a lot of information. Titan Bar, Daily Task Reference. These start getting into things that I use on a regular basis. Neat. And so on. Oh yeah, Deed Tracker's made the first page. That's nice. Okay. What else do we have? Reward updates. We hear you about wanting more delving writs more quickly. That's fun. We're adding our first instances to the delvings with school and library at Tham Radane. Nice. These instances will have a small chance at a second rare delving box, with the rare rewards and higher tiers having a better chance at getting the rare delving box. Neat. School and library are really can be fast instances to plow through, especially post legendary item revamp. So it'll be really interesting to have to go back to strategically maneuvering through there, because there can be such tight hallways with so many patrols that at tier 10 or 12 now, I can see that being a much more slow and steady and cautious, clearing every group, don't skip anything kind of experience. Then again, which one is it? School? I think it's school, where you come in and you have the open courtyard. I'm just plowing through that, or was plowing through that for the legendary item XP pucks and whatnot. It was just like, clear as little as possible, get in, defeat things, and be gone. Something legendary item related. I don't remember specifically what it was. Maybe it was the traceries. That's what it was. So get in, get out, reset, get in, get out, clear as little as possible, because you only just want the bosses and their chests. And so, is that a strategy for tier 12 delving? I'll be curious to see. All right, thank you for reading. Cool, nice update. And if you are not familiar with these updates do get localized into French and German as well. So if you're looking at one of these that has the LOTRO Dev Diaries update-en, you can just pop that into, go into your address editor and write FR, and you should get the French version of the site, maybe? Oh, I know there's a way to do this. Hang on. How do I get the French version? I've done this before. Yeah, I love we got cookies. Let's try it again. Okay, there's a way to do it, and it seemed intuitive at the time that I was working on it. Hello, Aaron Barton. No, I've forgotten how to do it. But hopefully you're already looking at lotro.com and seeing it in German or French, and this should be localized to that as well. I'll have to look into that. There was, I thought, a more easy way to do that. Aha! How about at the bottom here? Fantastic. Locale equals. Great. So, once you've hit the language box at the bottom for French or German, You can go ahead and see this localized with fewer pretty colors for the spreadsheet. That's okay. And same thing for German. You can see it localized for that as well. So pretty much anything that's going out to lotro.com as an official publication, you should be able to see that as well. Awesome, thanks for that link in chat, Little Redhead, with links straight there. Oh, and Athalos also points out it's at the very bottom right. Awesome. I'm going to set that back to English though. Oh, this is an incognito window because I didn't want to contaminate my main settings here. All right. Well, it's pretty colors on the main spreadsheet. It's too bad that didn't get fully localized. But the essence is there. Okay. Neat. So we're here in Swanfleet in the Hobbit village of Glenhelig because I really like the topography as you're looking out through this canyon-esque thing where the water has just presumably dug its way through. It's neat. Also, no handrails, so watch out. All right, so what are we actually doing today? What we did last time, and we left off before really committing this, was there was a function, a helpful function that was like a catch-all function of give me information about this deed. Should it be displayed? Is it an actually deed? All these little bits and pieces about a deed. And it was returning a lot of variables because in Lua, unlike in some more formal languages, you can return as many things as you want. You can return one thing, you can return 10 things or more. So let me go ahead and pull up what that looked like here. So in this function, we had return hide deed, comma, skip deed, level 2 high, is category, is not available, is already complete, needs server cap. And every time we added something to return, we had to go and remember to change the call site to go ahead and capture that information if we needed it. And if we didn't need it, we probably wanted to add it anyway just so we didn't forget about it and misorder things. And keeping those in sync was becoming a problem. This is probably one of the main reasons a lot of languages don't even want you doing this, right? Like, it makes for maintainability headaches. Like, it's very nice to just be able to toss a couple of things into a return result. Under the covers, there's probably the hardware reasons why that's not a great idea that don't matter so much for a script language like Lua. But from a coding maintenance perspective, this was starting to get pretty ugly. And so what we wanted to do instead is just return a single structure that has all of these things in it. And if we needed to add a new thing, we just add it to the structure, and anyone who cares about that just looks in that table variable for that thing. And then you avoid having a bunch of these variables, names that are capturing things, being grayed out with IntelliSense because you're not actually using them, and oh, you have variables that you're not using. Why is that? It's like, well, IntelliSense, I'm trying to capture 4 things down on this list, and I do need that. So, that was the basic idea, was create a table with the things in it that we want, return that, and our call sites just suddenly get way nicer. But something we left off last time, because it was getting pretty late, is each of the places that did this call might have named these variables slightly differently. And so what we need to do is we need to go through and make sure that we caught all of those. And so what I might do is go ahead and pull up a Sublime Text file right here, where we can go ahead and paste in the new return, and then find all those places that use it, and check that those names match. And if they don't match, that we are aware of that. So for instance, let's go ahead and transform this first set. First of all, we don't need that indent. Let's go ahead and kill that. And really, we just need the things on the left side here. So there we go. That's our cleanup. And we can label this new system. Okay, so 874 was like this. Where else? 272. And I'm going to go ahead and avoid anything on the right side of that equals. We're really just caring about these variable names. Little Redhead confirms it is a long drop down from there. It is. Actually, it's deceptive. If you're looking out into the distance, you have this beautiful river snaking through. But right below me, there is, in fact, more Hobbit Village. So if I fell from here, I would lose some of the nice view, but I would not probably lose my life. But if you go far enough off, it is a pretty far drop. Okay, so we have 272. We have... All right, we have some other renames that are not so relevant. Cool. And then there was one other reference, I think, in main win. So let's get that up here as well. Main win. And this is line 973. Awesome. And anything else? Great. So those are the three invocations. The first thing we want to do is make sure. Now, Sublime Text, like a lot of modern text editors, if you highlight a thing, it'll preemptively highlight things that look like that. Let me blow this up a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see. So if I select hide deed, I can see that these three match exactly. They are a word that has the same spelling. And if I had case sensitivity on, they would probably care about that as well. So we can see I selected it. Oh, that's interesting. Case sensitivity is off. It still didn't work. It wasn't an exact match. But if I put that capital letter back, we can see exact matches. And so next one, skip deed, we see three exact matches. Level 2 high, great. Is category, awesome. Is not available, perfect. Is completed, fantastic. Here's where we can see we have the most trouble. I'm going to skip forward, needs server cap. So is completed is our problem child, as it were, because we have it spelled differently in every single call here. Is completed, is already complete, is complete, and completed. Basically every variation we could have done, we did. Not ideal. If you can have an internal mapping of what would I call this thing and use it consistently from place to place, that can be helpful. So what we want to make sure is that each of these places, whatever is completed has been converted over. Okay. Let's start at the beginning. It's a very good place to start. And so what we're looking for is that each of these things is now being prefixed by deedskipinfo dot. And if it was using the whatever the completed variable was is already completed, it is now just is completed. And so we're looking to make sure that the changes that are already in there match our expectations. And then if we wanted to be more thorough about looking through other things, that we could, but this will be pretty good. I've been using this all week. It seems pretty solid, so I'm pretty happy with it. I did find a different bug, completely unrelated as far as I can tell, and so we'll cover that as well. Is already complete has become is completed because, again, consistency is nice, but that was a different invocation because we had a get deed complete function. All right. Is already complete, is completed, great. Is completed, is completed. Just, getting all of these uses of the same concept to be called the same thing. All right, is completed, is completed, is completed, great. Is completed, over and over. Same thing, it'll lose all meaning. Okay, here we have that actual change here. And we're done with the invocations above. We have this one here. And we can have deed skip info is category, deed skip info hide deed, deed skip info skip deed, level 2 high, and not available. Awesome. And then again, is complete is now is completed. Great. And another one. And finally, this is a completely unrelated bug that I found, which was that I was checking for an empty string, but I was running into a nil version. For whatever reason. I should probably check to see why it was nil. But if it's nil, I should just, not throw an exception and stop processing. All right. In the main window, we also had a similar change where instead of all these variables coming in, we got deed skip info. Oh, we have some debug function. If the deed is a perfect fellowship, go ahead and debug, dump that structure. Well, I don't think we need that anymore. So we're going to go ahead and be prepared to delete that. I'll go ahead and get that over here. That's line 974. We want to remember to go ahead and get rid of that. All right, deed skip info. We're adding that to all of these things. Is completed becomes is completed. Great. More is completed. More is completed. Whether or not a deed is completed matters a lot to this plugin, as it turns out. Lots more of adding that deed skip info prefix. Great. Completed becomes is completed. Yep. Awesome. Well, I would say we did a great job. Good job, us. That looks good. In each of those three places, we were doing renaming of the completed variable. So we're going to go ahead and remove this debug statement here. And I'm going to copy it off into a buffer just in case. But I don't think we'll be needing that anytime soon. Okay. Now, what we want to do is go ahead and commit things. So the first thing is that bug I was referencing. That's going to be in plugin functions at the very bottom. Check for nil summary before trying to make the summary label. And this is going to go ahead and get staged, and it's just a standalone bug fix right here. I don't know when that was introduced, so I'm probably not going to add it to like the release notes. It's such a minor thing. But in my head, it's like, oh, do I even tell people I'm fixing a bug? Like, there's so many bugs fixed and possibly introduced here, it doesn't matter. Okay, here's where we're going to be. We should probably figure out what the name of this function is. So that's line 796. And this is in the function get deed skip info. Great. All right, so we can see last time we said it seems done beginning the next stream. That's right now. Double check the spelling of the variables that used to be captured from get deed skip info with the variables inside the new return value structure. Done, awesome, great. So we're going to go ahead and update the to-do file. Consolidated return values from get deed skip info. Awesome. And we've already reviewed all these changes, so we can just glance at them. They're all still the same, get deed skip info, all of this. And plugin functions, lots of renames, lots of adding deed skip info. Having already gone through it, I feel pretty confident that we just had the two separate commits, the bug fix and this. So we're going to go ahead and call that done. Awesome. We'll celebrate with a drink of water. So, there were two thoughts I had in this function, get deed skip info, which is to say, there's lots of pure information here, but we could, while we're in here, make a few extra logical things. I don't know for sure if this is a good idea, so I wanted to write it down and come back to it when I wasn't also doing the refactoring. So there's a function here in main.win which is trying to figure out if we should include stats about this deed when looking at the deed. Like, should we care about its LOTRO points or virtue XP or include it in the counts? And so it's complicated, right? Is it not a category? And is it not too high level? And is it not available? So it is available. Does it not need the server cap? Then blah. And so on the one hand, only one of the 3 places that call this function cares at the moment about the specific information. Or if it does care, it's recalculating in some way that I haven't noticed yet. And so we could pre-calculate this Boolean yes or no answer in the function that returns this information. And maybe that's a good idea. Maybe having that central location instead of more poking at these things is a good idea. So my instinct is to go ahead and do that, go ahead and pre-calculate it, because ultimately we're comparing 4 things that should be Booleans under the cover. This should be a very fast calculation. And doing it every time we're calling that function, even if the caller doesn't care about it, for right now, I like the idea of that. And so what we want is 2 sections, pure information, and then we want the calculated information, or calculated answers or something. And so what we might want is, this is trying to figure out, should we include this is not indented, and that feels like a mistake. Okay, we'll revisit that someday. So if dskip info, and skip info just is not a great name, but it is what it is for right now. Should include info and count. Like, what would we even call this? What's up with include in count? I'm not entirely sure that's a reasonable thing to have anymore. But try not to get distracted. Maybe I'm messing with something that's good enough for right now. Because extracting this out, and I had another one I had in my head as well. Should the checkbox be visible? Extracting that out feels like a global solution for a local problem. Not every caller of this function cares about checkboxes, and ideally this function should be called by things that don't even have a user interface, let alone checkboxes. Yeah, I think I've made work for myself that I don't care about. Let's go ahead and just say no. We're not going to do that. I thought we were going to do that. I think I've changed my mind. Oh, fantastic. Tellurian in chat references a thought I had last week. For a question I had last week, the game clips, the in-game movie cinematics, are a Bink and Smacker codec. There is a tool from them to convert the clips to AVI or the like. That's really good information. And that was one of the things I was saying. Someone was asking what was the game written in. And so the question is more complicated because, of course, the game includes some things that were probably not specifically written by Standing Stone Games or then Turbine, like the in-game cinematic player. If you're writing a video game and you want to show in-game cinematics, you probably don't write your own video player. You're busy writing a video game. And so what language is the game written in starts to become a more complicated question if you start asking about the other things that isn't even the game, but things that the game is using. So, awesome, Tellurian, thanks for pointing that out. For those who are curious, you can probably find more with a web search of your choice. All right, so I'm going to say this is a no, and I thought this is what I was going to be working on today, but I've convinced myself that of the 3 places calling get deedskip info, which again is not a great name for the function, maybe I should be fixing that. Here, rename the function ? But I think these logic changes they're not worth that. I'd rather do them at the place where I'm using the logic value rather than preemptively calculating them. That being said, let's go look at get deed skip info and see how it's being used. So, deed skip info, what are we doing with this? We're looking for skip deed, but also hide deed. I almost want to call it deed info. But it's not the information of the deed, it's like more like meta information or deed state or something. Alright, hide deed, skip deed, is it a category? Is the level too high? Is it not available? Needs server cap. Oh, interesting. Tellurian follows up saying, if I recall correctly, Binken's Macro supports multiple audio tracks, but LOTRO doesn't use those. Instead, the video data of the clip is stored 3 times. One time for each of the languages that you've got installed. That's funny. I wonder if that solved some other problem. Or if 20 years ago the Binken's Macro didn't support multiple audio tracks. So many questions. Is it a category? So this is, I'd almost want to call it get deed meta info, because I think of the deed info. In fact, we have a storage file called deed info, which is really more like deed structure. UI, deed UI structure, but that's the info. So this is kind of like meta info. Once we look at a deed, some information about that deed. Which is why I haven't renamed this function yet, because get deed skip info, I mean, that was primarily what we were looking for, was should we include this deed, should we count this deed, should we show this deed? Tellurian follows, and it may be that invoking the player does not support volume info, thus leading to loud clips. I have seen streamers like Druid's Fire having trouble with the volume of those clips. And it's not a problem that I think that I've really run into on my machine. And I don't know if I just have lucked out and the level of my game and the level of videos is close enough that I haven't noticed it, or what. But I do notice, in general, for the game sound not to overwhelm other things that I'm also doing, like playing videos or whatnot, the game sound relative to the OS sound is really low. And yet, when I play those videos, it's fine. It comes out of the correct device. It doesn't blow out my eardrums and all of that. So I don't think I'm experiencing quite the same problem as some other people in that regard. That being said, the fact that anyone is experiencing a volume mismatch between game and video suggests that there's at the very least, it's a different thing playing the audio than the game. And maybe it's not persisting some of those settings. Get deed skip info. I think I'm going to leave it. Again, it's one of those things where I feel like it could be better, but I'm not sure what better looks like in this case. And if I don't know what better looks like, then what I change it to might very well be worse. So we're just going to say no. Done. So this is a to-do file update. Not doing this. Well, apologies for anyone who came based off of that specific idea that I was going to be reworking that logic. What it would have looked like is I would have pre-calculated those answers and stored them in the results here, and then the callers would have just looked at that answer. And it probably would have taken the whole stream time, but it was a thing I was thinking. But now that I've seen that only one of the 3 places is actually using that information, I'd rather just keep the calculation over there. Alright, Tellurian says, I have the general game volume set to 50%, and clips still blast my ears at feeling like they're 100%. Well, in-game, my audio for the master volume is set to 50%, but in the Windows audio control, my system sound is down pretty low at maybe 25%, and the Lord of the Rings Online control within that panel is maybe 2/3 of that at best. And so, give or take that. So, Lord of the Rings Online, this half volume is running through this, which is bringing it down to maybe half of the system sound, which is a quarter of 100% sound. So I think it's running at like 10% or something. And so even if the in-game cinematic was blowing past either of these things and just going to my system level's not that high. And so I'm guessing everyone's sound configuration looks a little bit different. And so I'm guessing that's why I'm maybe not experiencing that pressure pain point the way some other people are. Because yeah, if you had your game sound up to 50% and it was blowing past that by double, that's going to be more noticeable. Kind of want to go see a game cinematic. Actually, we just unlocked. I hope it's unlocked a cinematic over in Cardalon, over at Sarn Ford. And I want to be able to revisit that one because the Sarn Ford cinematic, though very short, is also very pretty. Let's see. If I were going to go ahead and filter and then put a reflecting pool, it's at Karanost. That makes sense. Okay. Have to look at that at some point. You know what? All this talk about cinematics makes me want to go and return to Searland. And I'm curious if you would hear it differently because you're getting game audio directly via system, and I'm hearing it through speakers. So I'm curious if you would hear it differently. All right, it looked like it was to the south, so I'm just going to ride over here and see if I see a reflecting... Oh, I guess it was more west. Hey, there it is. Apparently I just can't read maps because it's a little bit north. Whoopsie. Okay. So, spoilers for Night Falls on Sarn Ford, I suppose. Oh, this is in-game. It is not the cinematic. You're right. Haha. I was thinking it looks so pretty, but no, that's in-game. Yeah, okay. Character screen, Tellurian. I'm hearing that voice in my head from Little Redhead. Okay, Aaron Bart. Not a spoiler for that. Let's just go ahead and log out here. And... Movie library. Awesome. All right, I'll play something older so it's less spoilery. I mean, spoilers for someone, obviously. It's always going to be someone's first time. You know, I was just making a new character for low-level play, and I ended up using the Robe of Fen, which I think comes from that Angmar quest line, but doubled up with this scarf. I actually quite like it. Okay, movie library. Show unlocked only. Well, yeah.
And so it was that the Iron Garrison passed the doors of Durin and entered the dark of Moria. But they were not the first to brave the mines. Nor will they be the last.
I would enjoy a little, like, a time line knowing how long is left in the cinematic. Neat. Okay, yeah, to me, that didn't seem blown out compared to the in-game sounds that I'm hearing. So I guess I guess that's a question for anyone who was listening to it like on headphones. Was there a noticeable change between that and just like the in-game music that we're listening to? Dame Hypatia in response to... Oh. Okay, so Dame Hypatia was mentioning a yarn festival in Zvala, which is near-ish here. Little Redhead's now thinking about going there in October. Dame Hypatia says several people I know go there regularly. As far as I know, it's the last one due to problems with the location. Well, that's too bad. All right, let's go ahead and pop open into milestones. And, oh, it's on cooldown. All right. Well, we'll just go look at the scenery here around Karanost. Okay, so removing work to do on plugins by just saying, not going to do it. A thing that I saw back during the version 2 to version 3 file format changes was we were accessing car data stuff. A big table with information about all of the characters. And it seemed like we were having to change a lot of places. And so what I was interested in at the time was maybe make that a little bit more isolated by using functions. Oh, hey, Casper. Hang on a sec. How you feeling? Casper recently had surgery. Yeah. He recently had some teeth out. You want to come on up? No? Don't know what you're doing? He recently had some teeth out, and we're trying to assess whether or not he's, like, comfortable. He's got some painkiller medication, which he will eat when it's liberally spread across chicken. And I think he's just curled up in a closet and is resting it out. All right. Well, we got a new box for you to climb into. Technically, it's a really old box. I found it in a closet. But it predates them being here. Okay, so, yeah, my thought was, would it be useful in some places to, instead of referencing car data, to have helper functions to do that? And the answer is, I don't know. There's so many uses. We can see 148 results in 8 files, and like that's a lot. And I don't know what benefit it would specifically give us. Like if we rule out some things, like don't worry about the options, don't worry about maybe the main window. Maybe the main window is the place to go with that, right? Like if you rule out main.lua, setting up the files basically, and plugin functions, like those are the functions, right, that we would be using, and we kind of are left with main window. And so then what do we do with that? Like we already have a get selected tab for a character, and so this is already a function to isolate that. In fact, I don't even know why this function is in get dtracker window. It should probably be in a different plugin functions kind of helper file. Although that file is itself getting unwieldy. Try not to knock that down. I forgot to move stuff out into storage. Okay, this is another helper function, get region expanded. This is another helper function, set region expanded. Again, it's in main win, and we should probably just have a function for character data stuff. So not just plugin functions, but character data. Oh, excellent question. Someone says, what is the toy? With the track for Casper behind my right shoulder. So, let's see.
The green thing.
Is it the middle oval thing that you're talking about? Or is it the one on the right with the black lip? Or is it the tower? We can provide links to any of those, although they will initially be on a Dutch website. But the company that makes them, I think, makes them worldwide. and that was per, yeah. Oh, hey, neat. So we actually have a couple of toys. This one, the one on the left. So if it was this one is meant to be a cat, simulation device where you put food into various levels, mixed with treats, right? So like there's the good stuff and then there's the everyday stuff. And so they need to either reach in and carefully pull the food out, or they need to like push it into the holes so it drops down and eventually drops out to the bottom. And this one is by a company called Catit, Catit, and yeah, they are everywhere. Let me pop a quick link to that since I know where that is. They all are interested. Okay, so that is... Okay, it's not that Catit, amusingly. We also got a different thing. Okay, yes, this is what I wanted. No, they also made the water fountain behind me. Fantastic.
Food tree. Catit senses food tree.
There we go. Okay. Let me go ahead and pull that up in a browser. Okay, so this is the search term that is going to be... Oh, and Little Redhead has put it into chat as well. This is the Catit Senses Food Tree. And here, we'll just pull it up on Pet's Place. I don't know anything about that one. And same basic idea, right? Got some photogenic cats trying to fish some food out of there. And around us, it costs about 20 money. And seems very worth it. We're not always very good about putting food or treats in there, but when we want to encourage at least one of the cats to be thinking about things, to use their prey senses, all of that, it seems really good. It engages them on both a, I want to stick my head in their level, and also they have to reach in and dexterously do stuff level. Cool.
And there's that part that slides closer.
Oh, good point. Can we see that? Each of those levels can rotate and open up more or fewer holes, or holes that are bigger or smaller. So there's a difficulty slider. It's basically delvings for cats, right? Where you can make it easier or harder. I think it's this one in the middle here. And yeah, you can see how it's on a track. So you can rotate that around to make it so trees just don't basically drop straight down from the top to the bottom. Per says, I need something they can try to destroy but can't. Also something to make it more difficult to eat. Now, you say something they can try to destroy but can't, but I think Little Redhead's going to get me a different toy that I would recommend as well. No, also that one, and the one on the right here. Yeah, oh, right. Yeah. So, there are a lot of cat toys nowadays that are coming with this corrugated cardboard insert, and a lot of times that's an insert that you can pop out when it gets too shredded and replace it. So it gives cats that satisfying scratching and tearing sensation, but instead of your bedclothes or your actual clothes, it's just corrugated cardboard. So it's pretty ecologically friendly as far as things go. And you pop that out, you pop a new one in, and they go to town. We've had this one for almost a year, and it's starting to maybe 6 months. We've had them for almost a year. Anyway, we've had this for about at least 6 months, I think, and it's starting to get some noticeable wear and tear on it. But
I think we had that first. That one.
I haven't tried to pull this one out for replacement, but when I do want to do that, and in the meantime, it just has these balls around the outside, and sometimes the cats just try to maneuver those balls around, and that's also a little intelligence-y thing. That was, for us, that was a bonus, because we really just wanted lots of things around that they could feel comfortable scratching on, and we would feel comfortable scratching on, and like, yay, please do that, and not scratching on our couch or something, or we're getting some new chairs, and it's like, yes, those are leather chairs, but we still would like you to not put holes in them, or try to not put holes in them. And so, if you can find something like that, it's nice to have something where they can destroy it, and it'll feel good for them to do that. But whatever, it's cardboard, right? It's fine. And a lot of times they'll be sitting on top of the toy, on top of this platform, while they are doing the scratching thing. So their butt's here and they're scratching right here, and so. Even though it's a pretty lightweight toy, you don't have to worry about like they try to scratch it, but it moves away from them, and they get really frustrated. Like they are the weight holding it down with the friction, and so that works pretty well. The other thing I would say, if you're looking for a simulation or a food regulation device, is this other one, which I want to say might be by the same company, but definitely you'll see something like it at a lot of places. And so this is, again, it's sort of a maze-like thing, right? You put food in these spikes here, or you put them in these grills, or you put them in these little holes, or even in these little plastic cups. And so, like, that's big enough where you can stick a cat paw through there, unless it's a really big cat paw. But it's only going to be the cat paw, and you'll see some interesting solutions from the cats. Like I've seen one of our cats like basically lick their paw and stick the paw in there, and the food will stick enough to the paw that they can get it out, or they'll try to scoop it up. And so, scattering some food pellets or some treats through here. Treats especially get their attention, can give them a lot of dexterous manipulation time where they're, how are they going to get the thing out? And so the one of our cats who really engages with this toy is really good about like wedging a paw in here and just kind of dragging it along to scooch food pellets out. So yeah, if you can get something like this, there's also a little tunnel through which you could potentially do stuff. We don't really use that very much. But something like this can also be a way to force them to have to think about their food a little bit instead of just being like, oh, it's in a bowl, nom nom nom. Apparently the way I put that down is kind of wobbly. Okay, cool. So good question. Thanks, Per. Cat questions are always on the table. Per says, mine always pull the balls out starting engineering BA this year. Some of them are wedged in harder than others, but I think as long as it's engaging them mentally, even if they're pulling the balls out, if they're shovable in again, then that might be part of the game. As long as you're not too attached to, they must play with it in this manner. As long as they're playing, that's the important thing. Bert says, my cat likes to sit on things and scratch them with his back claws. Yeah. It's excellent. Pear says, loved those last two. Please drop links when you can. Yeah, actually, I think LOTRO Redhead's going to do stuff. If you're in the Netherlands, I can't speak for the quality per se, but we've been getting a lot of stuff from zooplus.nl or .nl. And so if you go to CAT, there's a section for toys for stimulating them like that somewhere in here. And I expect most vet websites will have similar ideas. I think Little Redhead might try to find those for you, though. All right, and if she's unable to find them before the end of this, excellent. She's already on the ball. She found the wooden ball scratching toy. Again, these are going to be links to zooplus, which is where we're getting our stuff, but whatever country you're in, if you have a vet website, you're going to find something similar. And yeah, I'm especially loving the idea of replaceable corrugated cardboard inserts. So I hope that's what this is. I hope it's not a one-time use thing. But I haven't tried to pull it out to get a replacement. A lot of these you'll see they'll offer like Do you want the replace? Oh, here we go. One replacement corrugated cardboard insert for 4 money units. So that's not bad. And Little Redhead has also found the food activity board. Awesome. Thank you so much. Villain Dunk. You're welcome. And so this is the activity board. Fair notice, this one does collect a fair amount of dust, but it's probably dishwasher friendly. And definitely these glass bowls detach. And so at that point, you can just spray down the rest of it, right? The bowls maybe are a little bit harder to wash out. But they've got some examples of what it would look like in action as well. I wonder if they have any photogenic cats. Nope. Give me photogenic cats. Oh, they really fell down on the ball. Like, they have a cat toy with no cats in the pictures. Client photos. Excellent. Ooh. Well, that's not helpful. It's a ferret, and it's not using the toy. Yeah. That would look like ours, except for one of our cats just looks at it bemused and doesn't understand how to use it. So, what are you going to do? Yeah, Little Redhead points out, and I did it on screen but didn't talk about it, the bowls are a quarter turn to fix in, so you have to unquarter turn it and then it pops out. It's just a pressure fit at that point. And so it's super easy, relatively, for a human who has gripping strength to remove them, but it's beyond both of our cats at this point. Awesome. Thanks for grabbing those links, Little Redhead. And we can see on the left here also the cat tree. And there's lots of other things. Like there's so many options, and every cat's going to engage differently with the world. So one of our cats really likes chasing after things that fly in the air, and so we've have been having some success with this thing on a stick, right, on a string on a stick. And so he'll jump up in the air, he'll try to get it, he really engages. Other cat, not so much. The other cat looks at it and is like, what do you want me to do with that? And she's the one who really likes the toys. So maybe we're flicking it wrong or something, I don't know. But yeah, just because it worked pretty well for our cats or one of our cats doesn't mean it's going to work for every cat. But these are also the price points that for cats are hopefully pretty accessible. And if they're not, maybe you have a local exchange group where you can re-gift it. It's a good point. Little Redhead, or Per says, you'd be surprised about cats pulling those things off. Maybe so. Little Redhead points out their favorite toy is the ring off of milk jugs. So our milk jugs that come from the store, they're plastic, they have a cap, and the cap is stuck on to not be pulled off early by a little plastic ring with a couple of attachment points. But that ring can be pulled off with enough effort. And so when we're done with the milk, we'll pull that off, and the cats just love chasing that around. And I got that trick from my aunt from like 30 years ago. Like, there were rings all over the house. And if you're going to be buying plastic milk jugs, you're going to be collecting those rings. You might as well save them for a cat. In fact, there's one right here. So it might look familiar too. It's just plastic ring. For whatever reason, it just drives the cats nuts. They love chasing that. So, all right. More power to them. Agartha says, some of my cat's favorite toys are broken rubber bands. Tosses them up, pounces on them. Excellent. It feels like there's something about plastic or rubber or those kinds of materials that their ability to compress and expand kind of on their own, or to change shape after when nothing's touching it right at that moment. I don't know, something about it. Like cats like that, I guess. Neat. Excellent question. Thank you. Okay, Ginger says, I have the compendium loaded, but the managed plugin is empty. Where do I find plugins to load? Let's take a look at that. So, the LOTRO Plugin Compendium is a third-party program you can download. Links in the chat, and you can also find it over at lotrointerface.com. And what you're going to see when it loads up, hopefully, and Ginger, let me know. You say you're sorry you're old and computer illiterate. Don't worry. We're all coming at this from our own perspectives. So what I'm hoping you're seeing is a program window that looks like this. that has 3 tabs: installed plugins, add new plugins, and configuration. And the first thing you'll want to do is under configuration, you'll want to make sure that these locations look reasonable. It should be good. But for instance, when I am looking at my documents, Lord of the Rings Online folder, there's the important one is the plugin installation path, and that's the plugins folder. So if your Lord of the Rings files, like the place where your screenshots go and you take a screenshot, that kind of thing, if the location of that folder is in someplace strange or exciting, then this might be wrong in some fashion. I'm not sure how it's getting that value. And so you'll want to make sure that that is correct. You don't have to worry about the plugin downloads directory. That's just where it's going to put things temporarily. The other things are fine. So what you really just want to make sure is the plugin install path looks pretty good. And I guess really only if you try to install something under add new plugins and it doesn't work. So if you've got this window, you've got these 3 tabs, you want to go to add new plugins. Now let's say, for instance, I am tired of going to my skills window and finding one of my travel skills. So I want to install travel window 2. I'm going to get to my LOTRO Plugin Compendium window. I'm going to go ahead and go to add new plugins. I'll search for travel. And right away, it limits what I can see to these 3 things. Probably don't want the outdated one. Probably don't want the one travel location reference. I just want the travel window 2. That's an excellent question. Egg Arthur wants to make sure that Jinjar is using the LOTRO Plugin Compendium to manage plugins and not the LOTRO Compendium that is a plugin. So double check that, but as long as you've got the Plugin Compendium, you're good. So under Add New Plugins, I've selected the box next to Travel Window 2, and I will click Add. It downloads it, it puts it in the right place. Let's see. Jitter asks, where do I find that file? So I probably jumped the gun with the configuration. First things first, Jinjar, are you seeing a window that looks like this for the LOTRO Plugin Compendium? And if you are not, you want to look into your start menu perhaps. There's probably a plugin compendium there. What are you seeing if you're not seeing this? So let me put the link in the chat. What you can do is if you go to, well, that's just the wrong window. Sorry. If you follow that link in chat, you should get to this page for the LOTRO Plugin Compendium. And so did you download this, or are you looking at something else? The other thing is that you might be looking at is in-game, you might be looking at the plugin manager. And the plugin manager, anytime you add or remove plugins, will not know about that until you hit the green arrow. And then it will go ahead and add or remove items. If you've gone ahead and downloaded LOTRO Plugin Compendium, let's go ahead and do that. Oh, the new Chrome thing. I am so used to the bottom bar. The new location, I have not gotten used to that yet. So when you download it, you're going to get something called Plugin Compendium Setup. If you extract that with your favorite zip extraction program, you're going to see a Plugin Compendium Setup file. If you run that, you'll get the installer, and eventually, once that's done, you will get the LOTRO Plugin Compendium. Wow, look at that screenshot. Looks very Windows XP. It might be. When's the first version of this thing launched? So once you have downloaded the installation program, and once you've installed the plugin compendium, then you should, somewhere on your start menu, see something called plugin compendium. For me, it looks like this. And when I run it, I get that program that we were seeing before. So, Jinjar, go ahead and take a few minutes and see if that's what you did, or if you did something else. or if you are maybe in the middle of that and haven't finished that yet. And if you have any questions about any of those steps, pop it in the chat there. But no rush, especially if you're reading things or figuring things out. We'll be here. Aaron Bard says, is there a configuration / setup to the compendium? I jumped the gun there. There is a configuration tab, but it is, if you haven't done anything special with where your files are, then it's probably correct by default. And that was my mistake for jumping in there too soon. The first thing to do when you get this window is to try to add a new plugin and see what happens. For instance, if I wanted to add in the Prime plugin, I might go ahead and just click Add. It downloads it, it extracts it, and it says Installation Complete. And I have to remember to click this green arrow to refresh this list. And at that point, I can come in and maybe try out Prime Bags, for instance. Prime Bags I really like, and I've mentioned this before, and I will probably get around to making this a little bit of a more usable explanation for people who want to follow my workflow. And what on earth is that button? Is that the button that takes off all your clothes? There's a button in here that is weird to me, and it's not in the version that I have, so I'm not going to touch it. But if I wanted to clean up my inventory from running around before, I have this metal / buffs, and it corresponds to the 5th tab over here. That's why it says number 5. So I'm just going to throw my stuff over there. And then number 7, skill blocked. Okay, throw that stuff over there. Oh, there it goes. Rose, go ahead and toss that stuff. Affodil, toss that stuff. And then, oh, Arda, toss that stuff. Oh, crafting, that one's not sorted out yet. So we want to come on in. That should actually go over to Skillbox. Great. And yeah, okay, so that's the Skillbox one. And then we have some miscellaneous items or some craft items. Cool. I do have a couple task carry-alls. I'll go ahead and grab those for a moment and see if anything in my task items will fit in there. Awesome. All of them as it turns out. Now I've got some superior hardtack rations. I think I'll go ahead and just be rid of this and this and that. And we'll toss that into task items there. Perfect. So I have things that I run with all the time, and I like just putting that into a folder called, base, or whatever you want to call it. Things that I don't really want to even see that they're in my inventory, right? Like, they're things I'm carrying around. I want them accessible, but when I'm looking at my inventory, I care about everything else. Like, I'm not going to do anything with this unless something really weird is going on. In fact, I should make a note to get some new Athelos potions. Make more Westfold Athelos essences. Perfect. Okay, Jinjar, you said I found it. Now, do I need to do more than check the box of the ones I want? Not at all. That is how we do it. So if I wanted to install Titan Bar, for instance, I would search for it, first of all. Make sure it's the one I want, especially for really popular plugins. Maybe there's a couple things in there. As we saw, when I searched the word travel, there were a couple things that weren't travel window 2. But I've searched for Titan. I found Titan Bar. I click the box, and I click Add. Add is going to add each of the plugins that I selected. So if I wanted Titan Bar, but also Mini Raid... Whoa, that was weird. What did I do? Or More Map, and Titan Bar, and Mini Raid. So I can check 3 things, and then go ahead and just add them all. So downloading More Map, downloading Titan Bar, downloading Mini Raid, and it installed them all. So check the thing that you want. For instance, if I want to install pets, I check pets, and then I click Add. It downloads it, and it installs it. And I can tell that it worked by going in-game to System, Plugin Manager, and refresh. Aaron Bard says, what is More Map about? More Map is about, sometimes when you open up your map, you might want it to not take up the full screen. Or you might want to be able to make notes on the map like, ooh, I found this really cool thing here. And More Map is about that. Now, I don't have a lot of experience with More Map, so I can't say a lot about it. But when it first starts up, there's a little map icon on the upper left. And for More Map, let's say I wanted to go ahead, and add an annotation. So for instance, the Brandywine River, I want to add an annotation, and the name is It's Cool. Brandywine is cool. And I'm just going to save that. So now we can see on the map that there's an annotation. It's cool, right? So More Map can... Edgar says, More Map can even automatically prompt you to annotate the location of treasure caches / quests as you discover them. Awesome. Yeah, More Map is one of those things that I feel like I should use more of, but I just, it hasn't ticked that specific box for me yet. Maybe someday. So if I want to come in and I want to make a note that there's goblins over here, I've clicked the wrong button. There's goblins over here south of Brockenborings. I go ahead and add annotation, goblins, and save. Whoops. There are goblins here. Save. Okay. And so now there is a flag there, and it says goblins, right? If I click on it, it says there are goblins here. Awesome. So More Map allows you to have that customizability. It'll also let you do other things like change the width and height of the map. So 1024 by 768 and save. And so now More Map is more like this. And I think you can also make it draggable. It's draggable by default. That's nice. And so maybe you want a map that will pop up, but you can still run around and do other things. So I'll just slide this down here and start running, for instance. Now, because of limitations in the LOTRO Lua API, by default, this may not be able to say, where are you? In fact, let's see, where am I? Let's go ahead and pop on out, come on into Cardalon. Great. So I was able to make myself show up on the map because I did a /LOC, and it knows that that's where I was. So if I want to continue updating that, I can continue to do a /LOC, and it will be able to show me that. But that's a limitation. By default, it doesn't know what direction I am facing or what direction or if I am moving without me doing /LOC commands. And you can do that. Like, I have it bound to, you know how your mouse wheel, a lot of mouse wheels can tilt left and right, as well as being depressed and scrollable. So I just tilt my mouse wheel to the right, and it just updates my location, and it works pretty well. But as we can see, it's quite spammy to the standard chat channel. So you'll want to separate out your standard chat channel if you're doing this kind of a technique. This is also useful in the roving threat plugin and the chicken plugin. You can see it there as well. Okay, awesome. So Ginger, were you able to install your first plugin with the plugin compendium? I guess is the first question. And while we're looking at that, or while you're potentially answering that, I'm going to come back into my plugins directory, documents, Lord of the Rings Online, plugins, and I'm probably going to go ahead and get rid of a lot of these. So kind of reset back a little bit. Just cube plugins. Whoopsie. Make sure you unload all of your plugins first before you do that. Otherwise, things are going to start complaining. Ginger, awesome. You say you're looking now, you're finding the ones that will be useful to you. Great. If you haven't already, I would encourage you to go ahead and do a test installation of something that's really useful, like Travel Window. So if you haven't already, find Travel Window, click Add, and make sure you can see that show up in your in-game plugin manager. And if you can, then perfect. Everything's working great. And if it turns out you don't want Travel Manager or Travel Window, you can just come in and delete Travel Window 2 from your plugin directory. Or just leave it there. There's no harm. Okay. Great. Ginger, I hope that's successful. While you think about that, work on that, I'm going to go ahead and return to Glen Hellick. I like it there. It's nice and high. Long ago, before I played Lord of the Rings Online, I tried out World of Warcraft. And World of Warcraft's plugin system allows plugins to do a little bit more than they can do in the sandbox of Lord of the Rings Online. And there was a plugin that was able to tell when you mined a resource, copper, iron, whatever, and it would record where you were and be able to both show you that on your in-game map, the collection of all the places where you had found them, and also put icons on top of your radar in the corresponding locations. Like, there has been a thing here. And that meant you could, after a while, after running through a region over and over, like maybe you're looking for gold outside of Estelden, get a really accurate map of the spawn points, is what we would call them, for the nodes in question. And so that we can see in that brief explanation several things that you can't do within the Lord of the Rings Online plugin ecosystem. A plugin doesn't have access to where your character is or what direction they're facing unless you execute /LOC, and then this has that information. So a plugin can react to that information coming across, but a plugin cannot request and say, "Hey, where am I?" Plugins could draw on top of the space where your radar is, but without knowing that you are moving by pressing that /LOC key pretty constantly, it wouldn't know how to move those things based off of where you had moved. Okay, Ginger, you say still nothing in the plugin manager window. I think you mean the one in the game. And if you've done the installation, if you clicked the add button, select something, let me refresh, select travel window 2, click the add button. If you have the game running, make sure you click the green arrow in the plugin manager. That's the refresh button. Lord of the Rings Online does not keep an eye on your plugin directory. You have to click this arrow or type in /plugins space refresh in order for Lord of the Rings Online to see a change in that directory. So what you want to do is click the thing, press add, and then in game, click this green arrow. And if you do that, hopefully you're going to see that new thing that you just added here. And we can see travel window 2, I load it up, I get my travel window. And even with my minstrel, who doesn't have fancy hunter travel skills, I still have, 27 travel skills. So very handy. Oh, Ginger says, okay, I have it finally. Hopefully that means you were able to select a plugin in LOTRO Plugin Compendium, add it, which causes it to download and be put in the right place, and then refresh your list in-game so that you can see the item. And the last thing would be to select it and press load to see it actually running within your game client. But awesome, sounds like you're making progress. Not every plugin, as Agartha, I think, mentioned. Yes, not every plugin available on LOTROinterface.com is available in the plugin compendium, either because they have not asked to be, or because there's something a little weird with how those files are structured. If you're looking for a specific plugin and you do not see it in the LOTRO plugin compendium, go to LOTROinterface.com, see if it's there, and there will be instructions on how to install it. Agartha mentions plugins by default do not load. So if you do want a plugin to load every time you log in, you're going to look at this box down here, automatically load for, and you'll be able to select some or all of your characters. So for something like Travel Window, I like it for all of my characters. Ginger says, now to go through and load the info I already have. Well, if you're talking about a plugin like Deed Tracker, there are shortcuts to that Jinjar. But if you have a pretty new character with only a couple of deeds done, it's probably just as easy to go and click them. If you're talking about a different plugin, then that's less helpful. If you have not sat and listened to the music in Glen Helig, I recommend it. It's jaunty little tunes. It's fun. Jinder says, yes, Deed Tracker. How do I do it the fast way? Let me reset my plugin information so it'll be a fresh. It'll look like yours. So I'm going to go ahead and come into my plugin data and just blow it away. Don't do this on your end. I'm just going to start with no plugin data. So when I load my Deed Tracker, hey, Kato. When I load my Deed Tracker, two things. I get a little token in the middle of the screen. I just put it somewhere where you can find it. And I get the Deed Tracker window. And we can see I've completed nothing. Now, the steps to do this, you can find more information about it online. And you go at whatever speed is comfortable for you. But if you go to deedtracker.lifebeyondtheshire.com, and I'll paste this into chat here in just a moment, there is an import deed completion from LOTRO Companion for your reference. And what this is this uses a different third-party program called LOTRO Companion. So if you want to try this out, you'll want to download that. And once you have it downloaded, you can run it. It'll look like this. And LOTRO Companion has an import feature. So for instance, I could do that right now. I can import and start. And so LOTRO Companion is going to go and check out what's up with your character, what deeds have you done, what quests have you done, all this kind of thing. Neat. Import is complete. And if I find my Documents, Lord of the Rings Online plugins directory in Deed Tracker, there is an import deed completion from LOTRO Companion. Super easy. You'll see it's an HTML application file. This is all explained in nice slow detail over on that website that I just linked to. I'm just giving you a brief run through. So we run this import. It's too wide. I don't know why that window is so wide. And it says the following LOTRO Companion characters can be imported. Awesome. Treebeard, and this is Affodil. Import. Importing. Great. And so that's done. And the next time the Deed Tracker loads up, it will say, hey, I notice that LOTRO Companion thinks that you've completed these 1,207 deeds. Would you like to go ahead and mark them off in the Deed Tracker? Yes, please. Done. And at that point, we can see all of those deeds are correctly marked off. It's very handy. Otherwise, it could take a while to mark things off. Now, you don't have to do this. In fact, you can just play and let it automatically detect things going forward. So, for instance, if you had completed most of Explorer of the Great River, but not all of it, I'll just go ahead and mark off a few things here, and you didn't import this. When you complete Explorer of the Great River, and we can actually just pretend like this happens, Explorer of the Great River. When you do that, Deed Tracker will be like, well, in order to complete Explorer of the River, you must have completed Thingland Explorer and Parth Celebrant Explorer. So we'll just mark those off for you. Or if you completed Deeds of the Great River. Deeds of the Great River. Well, in order to complete Deeds of the Great River, you must have already completed these other things. And so since you didn't have Quest of Thingland checked off, we'll check that for you. And Quest of Yorlsmead, and the Wailing Hills, and all of these other things. And you can do that just by clicking on them as well. If I know I've completed Explorer of West Gondor, just click it. It'll mark everything else off. So even if you don't use this LOTRO Companion, you can quickly mark off, oh, I've done Deeds of West Gondor. Cool, click, done. What's next? Oh, Eastern Gondor, I've done Deeds of Eastern Gondor. Good, click it and move on. That kind of thing. Now, of course, most regions will have some extra things, like the Five Sisters or the Roving Threats Eastern Gondor, that are not under that meta deed. And, if you've already done them, you'll need to follow up and manually click them if you're doing the manual route. Anyway, that is your list. That is sort of the fast way of importing this information. Now, you don't have to do it that way, and you don't have to do it today. You can always run that import sometime in the future, and it'll catch you up. So you don't feel like you need to run through these steps if they're more than you want to do. They may not be for the computer illiterate, as you describe yourself. I hope it's pretty straightforward, but if it's not, it's okay. This is not required to use the deed tracker. There's lots of pictures annotating all of the steps here. Anyhow, Jindor, if you end up trying to do it the fast way, and I do think it's pretty fast, feel free to take that offline, come back next week and, let us know how it goes. Did it go well? Did it go poorly? Were you stuck on step 1? Jindor says, on some of my higher level characters, that will help a lot. It really will. I have characters with thousands of deeds completed, and checking those off one by one is not great. Even checking it off tab by tab. Just the mental process of, did I do everything in Breland? The redhead says, if you go to that link, you should be able to follow the directions. Just read slowly and carefully. Don't just glance over like I do. And it should walk you through all the steps. But again, yeah, if you try it and get stuck, I'll be here for a few more minutes today. And then just come back next week. And let's say it worked, it didn't work. Here's the error message I got. Any of these things. And we can try to drill into the specific issue. Okay, neat. So I'm going to go ahead and close that link for right now, but the link is in chat, and the LOTRO Plugin Compendium. Great. I'm going to just close a few of these windows. They've crept up on me here. Okay. That being said, was looking at this car data, and there's already a lot of encapsulation going on. I wonder if I can just click through a few more and convince myself that the thing I was worried about is less of a worry. All right, so we're referencing the search value. That could be encapsulated in something. We already have a change tab. That's in a function. Here's more of the search. I mean, search really seems like the big thing, and that feels straightforward. Okay. I've convinced myself that Caradata is used all over, but I think it'd be premature optimization to aggressively change how we're referencing this. And I don't know how Lua performs it with massive amounts of function calls. This function calls that function, which calls that function, which calls that function. But I'm used to thinking about in scripting languages, even if they're pre-compiled down, there's a penalty to pay for multiple function calls where one would have sufficed, or 0. So I think this was an interesting note to make. Any places where we're accessing it, consider replacing with a helper function. But I feel like most of these places are helper functions, or that maybe it wouldn't help as much as I was thinking. And so I'm going to say that's done. Just one more thing that we're not going to do. And the thing that you don't do can be the fastest thing that you'll ever do, Okay. We had old logic that was looking at a completed value. And so we want to make sure any place that was completed, we need it to be deeds completed. Well, that sounds like it should be pretty straightforward. First of all, we want to find those places that are just completed. And a lot of text editors will have the ability to match on a whole word. That is, I do not want to see deeds_completed. I just want to see completed. And let's start with that and see if that finds things. Okay. Well, here's the conversion function, where if it finds completed, it goes ahead and saves it off as deeds completed. Great. Okay, this is actually something for processing the companion import. And so this is a different textual version of completed. So don't need to worry about that. All right, so this is Carnam deeds completed. Okay, that's what we're looking for. Okay, so that's not referencing that. Awesome. Neither is that. Neither is that. It really just feels like we're not referencing it at all, is the thing. And that's why this comment was here. Do we need that deeds completed thing? I'm not sure we do. In fact, oh, well, we should look at the actual deeds completed. We save it off there. And then we just never use it? Question mark. Let's look at any place that has the word completed and convince ourselves that this is not going to be a problem. So, chat completed, not a problem. Lang, anything in Lang is not. These are some options, don't have to worry about that. More complicated things. Here's the thing we actually are looking for. All right, that's the companion import. Awesome. Okay, so this is why we wanted to search on that whole word, because so many of these instances are the word completed in something larger. Deeds. Okay, we also have deeds completed. And here's the other thing, is we are using a deeds completed. I feel like I need to pop into an actual save file and be like, what's going on? So I'm going to get rid of the save file that we had and restore one that has more live information. So to do that, I'm going to go to my backup that I made and just copy that in. Okay. So we're over here on the Treebeard server, and this is in all characters. And so this is dtracker. We can see I have a lot of backups from this import process. But let's go ahead and open up the LOTRO plugin data and see what this looks like. Okay. So we have deeds. Let's go ahead and collapse that down. We have deeds completed equals 0. Well, that's something. And we can see why, because it just wasn't getting used. Okay, fair. All right, debug. Yes, debug information. Uncleared information, UI information, level, quests. Awesome. So let's dig into deeds a little bit. In deeds, we might very well have a completed term, if that gets saved out. Completed. Yeah. That is also 0, as it turns out. Which just makes me wonder, what is going on here? Overall completed equals this. Let's go ahead and load and unload and make sure that is as fresh as it's going to be. Completed. Why is that 0? Am I just not using it? Am I not seeing what's going on here? Let's go ahead and finish the deeds completed here. This is the next thing I want to look at. This is a problem with code that I wrote years ago, is I don't necessarily understand how it works any more than any other average person might. Okay. C set deed complete. We're seeing that here. Okay. We're seeing this character deeds completed. Feels like that should be relevant. Lots of strings. I don't think any of those is going to be relevant here. And none of that's relevant. Okay. I gotta say, I don't understand what's going on with this character deeds completed value, because it sure seems like that should be set to something in the save file. And part of the problem is thanks to historical reasons, a lot of our tracking of stuff, information, we just shoved it into this array, and it just gets persisted almost by accident. Like we're recalculating this information when we process the file, just in case. And so, why is it here, and does it need to be there, and why isn't it getting saved out? All of these are questions. And so, set deed complete. Okay, so if I were to set a deed complete, let's try that. We're going to come on in here. We've got the deed tracker. We're going to come on down to delvings, and there and back again. Set it complete. Completed equals 1. That just doesn't seem right. Okay, it gets set. Okay, so that doesn't get persisted. That's fascinating. So what is it good for? Why do I have it? Why am I doing this? So let's go ahead and find the uses of deeds completed here. And one of the problems with Lua is that this could be written deeds.completed instead of the array access. So it could be more like, well, dot completed. In fact, let's find all uses of just dot completed here. All right, let's import when. Sounds a bit like something Gandalf would say. Well, if you live as long as Gandalf does, you're gonna look at something and be like, yeah, I have no memory of this. What do you mean I rescued a dwarf from Dol Guldur? I don't remember that at all. Your grandfather? That wasn't you? Wait, what year is this? All of that. So first of all, I'm not convinced that we do need this information. I think it'd be safe to just drop it on the floor. It looks like no question mark. So we'll preliminarily do that. Okay, the companion import's a red herring. I don't need to worry about that. Overall completed. What is overall completed and where is it used? So we have an overall percentage is getting equal to these things. That's in main window. Why are we assuming that's right? I'm not sure. Let's come back into okay, we have an equals total completed. Check deed data. Okay, so there's a function called check deed data, and this should be getting called from main window whenever we change characters. Okay, what else? Check character data also does it. Okay. All right, where does check character data get called? That also gets called from main. That gets called by definition. So we should be expecting this check deed data function to get called, and character deeds completed should be getting set. So if we say debug changing this thing, and I'm going to go ahead and use the alternate notation here, from, and I'll concatenate that in, to, and grab that total completed as well. And then one thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and dump this just in case it ends up being a null value or something. The helper function dump that we have is just going to make that better. So let's go ahead and reload this in. And we can see changing character deed completed from 0 to 0. That's odd. What's going on there? And would it be different if I was not hiding completed deeds? So let's go ahead and reload the plugin here. Changing completed from 1199 to 1199. And we can see that matches. So this looks like a side effect of the fact that I normally run in hide completed deeds. And if that's the case, we're setting that to 0. Why are we setting that to 0? Well, we're not actually showing the completed deeds in the UI. And I think that's probably the problem, is that completed is really shorthand for completed deeds shown in the UI. Okay. So anytime I change hide completed deeds, okay, 0 to 199, okay, so that is consistent, but confusing. And then there's the question of why is it in the character data? Because that just doesn't feel good. Especially when we have things like total deed count, total LP available, total VXP available. We already are abusing global variables in a way that makes me wonder, why are we not abusing that here when we're recalculating that total whenever we need it, essentially? Not trusting what would be in the file because you may have leveled since the last time you loaded this. You may have changed character classes, or races, character races. So I feel like putting that in the file at all doesn't make sense. Here we have that completed, so we can see that's going on. Completed. Okay, so the deeds completed is redundant, and the deeds completed and the completed value I think is unnecessary. I have to convince myself this is true, but if it is true, and I think it is, then if we're looking for completed any of these uses, so do we need to complete the save file? No, don't import that. Don't import it, just skip this entry. Okay, so we're no longer going to import the old version of completed. And moreover, okay, that's companion, done with main, we have overall completed equals this. And again, it doesn't need to be stored there. We need it to be stored somewhere else. And so the total deed count, where does that get declared? We see total deed count up here. And this should probably be the same thing. Total deed count, total deed completed count equals 0. And we're going to use this any place we would have been storing information in the car data array. And I'm not a big fan of global variables. I think they cause problems. In this case, I think it's going to solve incrementally more problems than it causes, which is progress. But in general, if this were structured a little differently, I would have, it might be the moral equivalent of a global class, but a little bit more of a table-based oriented thing. I might be passing that around, or at least have a global function that says get this for me so that I could fake it out or whatever. Right now, there's so many places looking at total deed count that if I want to fake that out for purposes of testing the plugin, good luck, right? You just can't do it. So I'm not a fan of global variables. They make testing harder. They probably make development harder. But in this specific case, it is going to clean up the save file. So, progress. So we're going to add total deed completed count. And in each of those cases where we had deeds completed, we're going to be using that instead. So total deed completed count. Same thing down here. Total deed completed count equals total deed completed count plus change. Great. Same thing down here. We're going to go ahead and set total deed completed equals total completed. And we'll go ahead and dump that instead. Total deed completed to total completed. Awesome. And then this is in strings, so that's also a red herring, as it were. makes me wonder where that particular thing came from. Why do we say red herring in English? What does this have to do with herrings? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open this up, and I'm going to go ahead and unload, actually, because I want to see what's going on. Completed got reset to 0. That makes sense. Maybe. It made sense when I unloaded that plugin. Okay, so what I want to do is we see changing completed from 0 to 0. Hide completed, awesome, 0 to 1199. We see it. Hide completed, 1990 to 0. Everything's working great. If I go ahead and come into Rovanian, probably Gondor. Nope, can't do that. Rovanian. Great River. And go ahead and do like Wailing Hills. We see that will go up from 1199 to 1200. We don't see that being changed here, but if I go ahead and click hide, we can see 1200 to 0, 0 to 1200. Interesting. I grab the things to smell the red herring. It throws bloodhounds off the scent, if I recall correctly. Aaron Bard says the term was popularized in 1807 by English polemicist William Cobbett, who told a story of having used a strong-smelling smoked fish to divert and distract hounds from chasing a rabbit. See, this was your problem. If you had used murder machines like cats, they probably wouldn't have cared. Because the smoked fish wasn't alive, and they couldn't watch it suffer, right? So, hunting cats. Alternate history, no red herring etymology. Maybe. Okay, I've satisfied myself that this change, this refactoring, is going to be doing two things. First of all, if we unload this plugin, does it break anything? Doesn't seem to. Let's come in and remove completed from here. In fact, completed, let's remove deeds completed as well. That was part of the conversion process. So if we load this in, and same thing, let's go ahead and hide completed deeds, 1200, 0, 0 to 1200, great. And unload this. And Brett says, should cite my reference in Mr. Google. I had a feeling that you might have pulled that in from a third-party source. Okay, so we are not seeing completed sneak its way back into the plugins here. And I think this is a reasonable change. Let's look at see what we just did. Okay, and in fact, that's the to-do file. Anything that looks like completed. All right, we're going to go ahead and kill that. Okay, changed how total completed is stored. Removed from character save file. And in fact, there might be a couple things like that I'm interested in removing over time, like the erase in the class. It might be useful to store these things, especially race, so you can detect race changes. But it never hurts to kind of revisit and say, were these things stored here in a way that wasn't necessary? Like, did we need to store the vocation? Maybe. I guess the big thing is detecting level changes or vocation changes. You can't do that unless you save this off. So the fact that these are all randomly collected instead of being under a specific location, I think if we're doing a 2.0 to 3.0 update, this would be a time to collect that together. So let's go ahead and 2.0 to 3.0. Now is a good time to collect MISC data together in a single table. And that's going to be race, class, what else do we have? Level, vocation. All right, race, class, level of vocation, anything else? Well, let's come back up to the top here. Selected tab. I feel like that should go into the UI stuff or something. Okay, move selected tab into UI section. Deeds, we have the debug, most people aren't going to see that. Erase class. Uncleared is fine, UI is fine. Okay, I think I'll be happy with that. Now's the time to clean up the save file format. We're already changing everything else, so why not? All right, as we review this, I feel like we're coming up on the 2-hour mark. So as we kind of review these changes in source control, maybe make some snapshots, some commits of what we've done. Now's a great time to toss any last minute questions, comments, concerns into chat here. Give you some time to type things. I don't think of myself as a blazingly fast typer, but every once in a while I'll get comments from people who hear me type, as you might be able to across the stream, and be like, oh wow, you're hitting those keys really fast. And fair enough. It's what I do for a living, so I'm probably faster than the average person. So I try to keep in mind that for some people, for whatever reason, they might be typing things into chat slower than I would, and that's okay. Okay, so we've got some to-do notes. Always try to write notes to future you, because current you becomes past you, and past you doesn't exist. So this is how you reliably communicate with the future. Okay, change how total completed is stored. Removed, completed, and deeds completed from character save file. Remember, it says you also have some serious edit/shortcut skills. I try to. I'm addicted to what I call multi-editing, and it might be that other people call this too. If I want to make the same change across multiple lines, like let's say I wanted to edit every one of these numbers for whatever reason, this is the kind of thing that just seems to happen a lot in my day-to-day life. Sometimes I'm helping friends, sometimes I'm doing it for a job, whatever. But if I want to transform these things, there are tools that make that easier. Like the mind-numbing of selecting this and pressing enter, selecting this and pressing enter. Let the machine work for you. Select all of them and press enter. Oh, now we've got some extra lines in here. Well, select the duplicate lines and replace them with a single line. Oh, now I'd really like these all to be surrounded by brace, quote, unquote, brace equals, false, semicolon. Like, it is possible to do multiple editing in a way that lets you express a single idea and have it duplicated dozens or thousands of times. I had a friend who wanted some random numbers for a thing he was doing. And he wanted them formatted like so, and so he gave me some, his first attempt, and I just wanted to transform them into something that was a little bit easier. This is the exact same thing that was happening. But especially for the list I was giving back to him, there were 100,000 numbers in there, and I didn't want to edit, format them manually. But I could reliably use this multi-editing thing because I'd practiced it on these smaller lists and I've gotten comfortable with it. I can reliably go ahead and say, oh, you know what? I don't want that quote. I don't want that other quote. And you know what? I think false should be spelled with a capital F. And by practicing this over and over on smaller sets where you could do it manually, it's fine, right? But by practicing it and doing it over and over and over and over on these smaller sets, I then have the confidence in my tools and technique where I can apply it to a list of 10,000 numbers and be like, okay, I don't have to convince myself very hard that I did it correctly. And yeah, if you're ever finding yourself in the habit of editing lists of things like this a lot and trying to transform them in some small way, I would encourage you to seek out a tool like Sublime Text. I'm sure other modern text editors out there, like Notepad++ or whatever, a lot of them probably have the same concept of a multi-select. And how would I call that? Let's see. Expand selection line, expand selection, split into lines, Control-Shift-L. Okay, so in Sublime Text, it is split into lines. So you're splitting your selection into lines. But yeah, I'd have to look at the specific one. But multi-selection editing is going to get you a long way on your favorite search engine of choice. What the? I am uncertain what that was just showing me. Okay, so if I come on back in here, any places where we're relaxing, say blah blah blah, cool. So we're not going to go ahead and bring deeds completed over. In fact, the old deeds completed will just be done with that. Awesome. We have the new total deeds completed count. We have a replacement for that. We have this replacement. We have that debug statement. Let's come on back into plugin functions line 902. Oh, we're already here. we do not need that debug statement anymore. We just need to convert what we are assigning to. And that'll do it. That's changing how the total complete is stored. And we're going to go ahead and call that good. Push that change out to the cloud. All right. Awesome. We are getting really close to this because these were notes I made when first doing the 2.0 to 3.0 change. And this list is getting really small. And we keep adding things to think about before we're done with it. But my idea of releasing this in the first quarter of this year, this large change onto the world is definitely still very possible in my head. Especially now that Ill Omens is done, because my goodness, I let myself get distracted by Ill Omens. But, as it turns out, it is possible to get yourself one each of the Portents of Deafness, and Portent of Strength, and Portent of Vitality. This is over on Treebeard, so we're currently cap of 75. And also, just in case they don't run Ill Omens next year, and that would make me sad, we were able to go ahead and grab the obvious portents of Deafness, and obvious portents of Strength, and obvious portent of Vitality, which was a bad idea. Like, don't do that. That was too much skirmishing, perhaps. But B, it was very satisfying at the end of it to be like, yes, complete. Your mileage may vary. So, Ill Omens, it is possible to get more than a single portent if you're not looking at the max level one, because the positive portent binds to your character, the max level portents bind to character, so there you're kind of stuck. But if you're on a legendary server, then good news, you can portent yourself up for quite some time. Okay. Aaron Bard, you are welcome for... I think I was talking about multi-editing. If that inspires anyone to get into multi-editing, I'd love to know. It's something I picked up because it was very useful for my day-to-day job, but I know a lot of people deal with lists of things where they're not necessarily dealing with coding. So it might be useful for you too. All right. Well, we have a clean working directory, so we must be done looking at that. We have a to-do file with some thoughts on what to do next time. And we have a stream that has just passed the 2-hour mark. So I think that's a good sign that we're at a really good breaking point. Let's see, where is my page of notes? Sure hope I didn't lose that. Ah, there it is. Great. The page notes says... Oh, I do not know if Shoreless Skies is on today. I forgot to ask. I know they were taking a break in January. So if you are a fan of following them along, I guess check in with them. Are they online? Nope. Okay. They were encountering a busy period of their life, so I'm not 100% sure. But if they are on, that is usually at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And that will be the next, I think, final stream today, which is Tuesday. And with that is everything we are going to cover today, from delvings to cats to deed tracker. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I do hope to see you all here next week, and until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.